G'day, fellow human beings. I've been thinking about this analogy lately, which is what if every human being on Earth is wearing sunglasses? Not literally, obviously, but imagine that from the moment you're born, life begins placing lenses in front of your eyes. Your parents give you one lens, your culture gives you another, your religion or your experience of religion adds another. Your education, your political beliefs, your friendships, your successes, your failures, your trauma, and your relationships all gradually color the way you see the world. And while after a while you forget that you're wearing sunglasses at all, you simply assume that the world really is coloring, or you simply assume that the world really is the color you're seeing. If your lenses are blue, the world looks blue. If someone else's lenses are red, the world looks red. And then the two of you begin arguing. You say, the world is obviously blue. They say, what are you talking about? It's clearly red. And both of you believe you are simply describing reality. But neither of you is seeing reality entirely as it is. You're seeing reality as it appears through your lenses. I think this explains an enormous amount about human conflict. We often assume people disagree with us because they're stupid, dishonest, ignorant, or evil. Sometimes people are dishonest, sometimes people are behaving badly, but much of the time they're simply looking through a completely different set of lenses. Think about politics. Two people can watch the same exact event and come away with completely opposite interpretations. One sees injustice, the other sees personal responsibility. One sees necessary social change, the other sees the destruction of tradition. One sees compassion, the other sees weakness. One sees strength, the other sees cruelty. They haven't necessarily witnessed different events, they've interpreted the same event through different lenses. And those lenses don't appear overnight. They may have been shaped by the country they grew up in, the economic circumstances of their family, the news they consume, the people they trust, and the experiences they personally survived. Someone who grew up surrounded by instability may value order above almost everything else. Someone who grew up feeling controlled may value freedom above almost everything else. Someone who has experienced discrimination may notice prejudice immediately. Someone who hasn't experienced it may struggle to see it at all. Someone who has been betrayed may see danger where another person sees innocence. Someone who was raised in a loving religious home may associate faith with peace and meaning. Someone who is wounded by religion may hear the word God and immediately feel fear, anger, or suspicion. We use the same words, but those words can carry completely different emotional meanings. And this is where ego enters the picture. Because it's one thing to realize that I'm wearing lenses, it's another thing to admit that my lenses might be distorting something. That is difficult. Our beliefs don't feel like beliefs, they feel like reality. Our interpretation doesn't feel like an interpretation, it feels like the truth. And once a belief becomes part of our identity, questioning it can feel like questioning who we are. If I admit that my political side is sometimes wrong, what does that say about me? If I question something my parents taught me, am I betraying them? If I consider a religious belief, am I losing my faith? Consider a different religious belief, am I losing my faith? If I acknowledge that somebody I dislike has a valid point, does that mean they've won? The ego turns the search for truth into a competition. Instead of asking, what can I learn here? We ask, how can I prove I'm right? Instead of listening to understand, we listen for weakness. We wait for the other person to pause so we can begin our counter argument. And this is why so many conversations go nowhere. Two people aren't really exploring reality together. They're defending their sunglasses. And social media has made this even more intense. Algorithms quickly learn which lens provoke the strongest emotional reaction from us. They discover what makes us angry, what makes us afraid, what makes us feel morally superior, and they show us more of it. Eventually, we become surrounded by people wearing almost exactly the same sunglasses. Everyone around us agrees and that the world is blue. And we begin to think, how could any intelligent person possibly believe it's red? Then the algorithm shows us the most ridiculous person wearing red sunglasses. Not the thoughtful one, not the compassionate one, not the person with a reasonable argument, the loudest and most offensive one. And we think, see, that's what all those people are like. Meanwhile, their algorithm is doing exactly the same thing with us. The result is that we are becoming more connected technologically while becoming less capable of understanding one another. We have instant access to the entire world, but increasingly limited patience for anyone who sees the world differently. So, what do we do? I don't think the answer is pretending that everyone or every viewpoint is equally true. It isn't. Some ideas are better supported by evidence. Some beliefs are harmful. Some actions are generally unjust. Understanding why somebody thinks the way they do does not require agreeing with them. Empathy is not surrender, but perhaps we could begin with a little more humility. We could recognize that none of us sees the whole picture. Every lens reveals certain things and hides others. A person focused on compassion may notice suffering that others overlook. Perhaps that they sometimes underestimate the importance of accountability. A person focused on responsibility may notice the consequences of poor choices. Perhaps they sometimes underestimate the influence of circumstances people never chose. A traditional person may recognize wisdom that has survived generations, but perhaps they can become resistant to necessary change. A progressive person may recognize where society needs to evolve, but perhaps they can become too eager to discard things they don't fully understand. Different lenses can reveal different parts of reality. The problem begins when we assume our lens reveals everything. I think friendship at its best is the process of temporarily trying on someone else's sunglasses. You don't have to keep them. You don't have to agree with everything you see through them. But for a moment, you try to understand how the world appears from where that person is standing. You ask, what happened in this person's life that made the world look this way? What are they afraid of? What are they protecting? What have they experienced that I haven't? What might they see I'm missing? Those questions don't weaken our beliefs, they refine them. Maybe one of the greatest signs of maturity is becoming curious about the possibility that you don't see everything clearly. It's the ability to say, I might be wrong. I hadn't considered that. I can understand why you see it that way. I still disagree, but I understand you better. Those sentences sound simple, but they require enormous strength because they require us to value truth above or more than victory. This is one of the things I appreciate about the Baha'i principle of consultation. Consultation isn't supposed to be an argument where one person wins and another person loses. The goal is to place different perspectives together and search for truth collectively. An idea is offered to the group, and then it no longer belongs to the person who offered it. It can be questioned, it can be improved, it can be combined with another idea. Nobody needs to defend their ego because the objective isn't personal victory. The objective is a clearer understanding. Imagine if more of our political discussions worked like that. Imagine if our relationships worked like that. Imagine if religious conversations worked like that. Instead of entering the conversation already certain that we possess the complete truth, we could arrive carrying one piece of it. You bring what you can see. I bring what I can see, and perhaps together we see something neither of us could see alone. That doesn't mean removing every lens. I'm not sure if that's even possible. We will always be influenced by our experiences. We'll always have a particular perspective. The goal isn't to become a person with no beliefs, no identity, and no point of view. The goal is to become aware of the lenses we're wearing, to clean them occasionally, to question where they come from, to notice when they're helping us see and when they're preventing us from seeing. Perhaps we should ask ourselves, which of my beliefs did I generally examine and which ones did I simply inherit? Which people do I automatically dismiss? What information do I avoid because it makes me uncomfortable? When was the last time I meaningfully changed my mind? Do I want to discover the truth or do I simply want reassurance that I'm already right? Those are uncomfortable questions, but I think very necessary. Because the world does not need more people who are absolutely certain that everyone is the problem. We have enough of those. The world needs people who are deeply committed to truth, but humble about their own ability to fully possess it. People who have convictions about becoming rigid. People can disagree without dehumanizing. People can listen without immediately appearing or preparing an attack. People can understand that another person's perspective may contain something valuable, even when it is incomplete, because all of our perspectives are incomplete. Maybe wisdom isn't finally discovering the perfect pair of sunglasses. Maybe wisdom is remembering that you're wearing them, and the next time you meet somebody who sees the world completely different from you, perhaps the first question shouldn't be, how can this person be so wrong? Perhaps it should be, what must the world look like through their eyes? You may still disagree, you may still challenge them, you may even walk away believing that their position is stronger than before. But at least for a moment, you'll have seen beyond the boundaries of your own experience. And maybe that's how humanity begins to understand itself. Not by pretending our differences don't exist, but by becoming curious enough, humble enough, and courageous enough to look through one another's lenses.